Designed by the brilliant engineer and starship designer Lyra Wessex, who designed the incredibly successful Venator-class Star Destroyer for the Galactic Republic during the Clone Wars, the Imperial Star Destroyer was the culmination of her lifelong obsession with creating even more powerful capital ships. As the Clone Wars raged, the Navy of the Old Republic began to find themselves outmatched by the firepower of Separatist cruisers, and the first of the brand new Imperator-class Star Destroyer began to see limited action in a few Republic task forces. The first ship of the Imperator line, which would be renamed the Imperial-Class after Emperor Palpatine's declaration of the Galactic Empire, was named the Executrix and was commanded by Moff Wilhuff Tarkin during the Battle of Kashyyyk in 19 BBY following the end of the Clone Wars. Together with the second Imperator-class Star Destroyer, the Exactor, Darth Vader's personal flagship, these two state-of-the-art vessels would help to subjugate and enslave the Wookiee race. As the production of Imperial-class Star Destroyers increased at Kuat shipyards, the Emperor easily recognized the terrifying vessel as the perfect platform to enforce Imperial will through the rule of fear policy of the Tarkin Doctrine, and prioritized the production of Imperial-class Star Destroyers over the Venator, effectively rendering the latter obsolete. But Kuat alone could not meet the immense quota set forth, and any nationalized Imperial shipyard of sufficient size and capacity began churning out the mile-long heavy cruisers. This included the famous Corellian Engineering Corporation, whose Imperial Star Destroyers tended to be faster and of higher overall quality than those constructed elsewhere, such as Fondor. The cost of producing the ship was nothing short of astronomical, at 150 million credits, more than the yearly gross domestic product of most star systems. This is why the ISDs were almost invariably a uniform white in color. The cost of painting the already cripplingly expensive fleet of vessels was simply too much, though the flagships of some of the Empire's most important figures, such as Grand Admiral Thrawn's Chimera, sometimes bore identifying decals. The Imperial-class served as a highly competent and versatile capital ship, fulfilling a wide variety of roles such as independent cruiser, destroyer, fleet escort, starfighter carrier, battle cruiser, and command ship. It was even capable of serving as a base for planetary invasion, with a single Star Destroyer being more than adequate to subjugate most planets. And failing that, the ISD had enough firepower to reduce the surface of a planet to slag from orbit. The ISD was perfect for this multi-role profile due to its extremely sophisticated design. The 1.6-kilometer ship was large enough to mount a vast variety of weapon emplacements. Its main batteries were composed of 6 dual heavy turbolaser turrets and 2 dual heavy ion cannons. These weapons, mounted in rows of 4 on either side of the ISD's upper superstructure, were more than a match for most opponent capital ships, but were still supplemented by 60 Taman Box XX9 heavy turbolaser batteries and 60 Borstel NK7 ion cannons. These were further supplemented with 3 heavy triple turbolaser turrets, 2 quad heavy turbolaser turrets, 2 medium turbolaser turrets, as well as 40 point defense laser cannons to protect against enemy starfighters and ordnance. Some Imperial Star Destroyers, such as the Emancipator, were further armed with proton torpedo launchers, though how common this modification was is anybody's guess. The ISD also mounted 10 Phylon Q7 tractor beam emitters to capture and tow other vessels, or to simply hold them in place while its massive arsenal of weapons made quick work of it. One of the major drawbacks of such a large and heavily armed starship was that it greatly compromised its speed, but the ISD's engine bank, consisting of 3 KDY Destroyer 1 primary ion engines and 4 Cygnus Spaceworks Gemini 4 secondary ion engines, could propel the massive space fortress at 60 megalight, fast enough to run down a much smaller Nebulon B frigate. And while its sheer mass necessitated the need for a Class II hyperdrive, half the speed of a Venator-class Star Destroyer, this was still a very respectable hyperspace rating, capable of matching all but the fastest of ships in the galaxy. And in case of a malfunction, ISD made use of a backup Class 8 hyperdrive, which is blazingly fast as far as secondary hyperdrives go. Defensively, aside from its heavy hull armor, a pair of massive KDY ISD-72X shield generator domes crowned the command tower. Projecting both ray shields and particle shields, the deflectors of the ISD could withstand all but the heaviest prolonged enemy bombardments, or a couple of shots from a super heavy planetary ion cannon. These domes also housed the ISD's sensor systems, including the ship's hyperwave transceiver array and long-range scanners, as well as a powerful HoloNet transceiver for instant galaxy-wide communication. Powering all of this energy-intensive equipment was the incredibly powerful IA-2B solar ionization reactor created by Sinar Fleet Systems. The massive reactor generated a peak output of 7.73 times 10 to the 24th power watts, or basically the power of a small star. While the auxiliary craft complement of the ISD could vary widely, its standard complement included 3 squadrons of TIE LN starfighters, 2 squadrons of TIE IN interceptors, a squadron of TIE SA bombers, 15 Delta-class stormtrooper transports, 8 Lambda-class shuttles, 12 Sentinel-class landing crafts, 5 Alpha-class XG-1 Starwing assault gunboats, 20 Theta-class AT-AT barges, 2 Gozanti-class light cruisers, and 1 Gamma-class assault shuttle. Most ISDs also carried an unknown number of Theta-class T-2C shuttles and skip ray blast boats, as well as other repair and recovery and support craft. But aside from space superiority vehicles, the ISD carried 20 AT-AT walkers and 30 AT-ST scout walkers, as well as an entire prefabricated garrison base and 9,700 stormtroopers to enforce the Emperor's will on a planetary level. And this extraordinary ship required an extraordinarily large crew to keep everything moving, with 9,235 officers in command of 27,850 crew, 275 of which were required just to man the ship's weaponry. This made a total population of 37,085, or 46,785 if you count the embarked stormtrooper legions. To accommodate such a large crew, the ISD had a maximum cargo capacity of 36,000 metric tons and carried consumables to last for up to 6 years. Within the first 2 decades of the ISD production, which saw the fleet swell to around 25,000 Star Destroyers, advancements in technology and changes in naval doctrine saw a shift in the Imperial-Class and produced a variant, the Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. In many ways, the Imperial-2 was the same as the Imperial-1, however there were several modifications. Cosmetically, the biggest changes were additional armor, a more faceted shield generator and sensor dome, and the relocation of the large X-shaped tractor beam targeting array on top of the command tower. Later, these cosmetic changes would be implemented on many Imperial-1 class Star Destroyers, making them almost visually indistinct at a casual glance. But looking closely, you can see a major difference in especially the weapons systems. With a total of 50 heavy turbolaser batteries as opposed to the 60 on the ISD-1, but with an additional 50 single heavy turbolaser cannons and an additional 26 medium and light turbolaser cannons, it was much more heavily armed. However, the ISD-2 did lose 2/3 of its ion cannon armaments for a total of only 20, and this included its dual heavy main ion batteries. And in fact, all of its main batteries, including its dual heavy turbolasers, were completely replaced. But these main guns became one of the most powerful ship-based weapons ever to exist in the galaxy. 8 octuple barbette turbolaser turrets capable of causing massive damage to any enemy vessel. And of course, all of this new super heavy firepower required additional energy, and so the Imperial-2s incorporated a more advanced version of the standard solar ionization reactor found on the earlier model, capable of a peak output of 9.28 times 10 to the 24th power watts, or just over 20% more energy than the ISD-1. This extra power was even noted to allow some Imperial-2s to utilize a Class 1 hyperdrive. But even that wasn't quite enough power, because the ISD-2 still had to sacrifice its triple and quad heavy turbolaser turrets, and even more debilitatingly, the entire dedicated point defense laser cannon armament. This lack of a point defense system was a massive flaw in what was otherwise an overall improvement of the Imperial class. And it was a flaw that the Rebellion would heavily exploit with their naval doctrine centered around the slash and fade capabilities of their superior starfighters. Still, both the Imperial 1 and Imperial 2 class Star Destroyers remained in service until at least as late as 41 ABY, a full 60 years after it was first deployed during the Clone Wars, despite the fact that newer, more efficient, and more powerful Star Destroyer designs were being implemented by both the Imperial Remnant and the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances. This tenure makes it one of the most successful capital ship designs in modern history. Of course, 6 decades of technological and design advancements culminated in what may have been the last and overall best iteration of the Imperial-Class Star Destroyer, the Anakin Solo. And being commissioned and built in 40 ABY, it took full advantage of those leaps forward. Created to be the flagship of the Galactic Alliance Guard, the secret police force of the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances, the Anakin Solo was equipped with a cloaking device and painted black, likely for a degree of stealth during normal operations, earning it the nickname Black Annie from its crew. The Anakin Solo was also equipped with a gravity well generator, which had become at least partially standard aboard ISDs by that time, and was capable of pulling ships out of hyperspace, as well as preventing the hyperspace escape of enemy vessels. In addition to the standard armament of an Imperial 2 class Star Destroyer, the Anakin Solo was equipped with proton torpedo launchers and missile launchers armed with both concussion and baradium missiles, the latter of which were capable of destroying capital ships in a single blast. The Anakin Solo was also equipped with 4 extremely powerful long-range turbo lasers that far exceeded the effective range and damage output of standard heavy turbo lasers. And most importantly, this last variant of the Imperial 2 finally addressed the lack of a dedicated point defense system and mounted an array of advanced anti-starfighter weaponry. All of these advancements made the Anakin Solo the perfect tool for both stealth and combat missions, and would serve as an invaluable flagship for Darth Caedus, perfectly rounding out its history as a vessel made for Sith Lords. And that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing so that we can reach that all-important 1,000 subscriber mark together. Also, why not leave a comment below and let me know what you think about the Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. And I look forward to seeing you next time on Star Wars Base Delta Zero.